Explained by the Billy Meier contacts, mysteries, myths, legends, conspiracy theories, historical inaccuracies, and more. Compiled by David Chance, revised October 18, 2023.
Crop circles. See also Joachim Koh. See also Hans-Jürgen Kyborg. Contact Report 231.
There are many irresponsible freeloaders who make big deals and immense profits with the UFO believers because they are cheated and financially exploited by the liars, swindlers as well as charlatans. This is how many people appear who knowingly and fraudulently claim to be in direct or telepathic contact with extraterrestrials, believing that the innocent are in full swindle. On the other hand, your truthful contacts with us are vehemently denied by know-it-alls and opponents, enviers, autocrats, image addicts, sectarians, etc., and you are portrayed as a liar and a fraud, despite all the irrefutable evidence you can produce. Evidence that no alleged contact person can produce. But all this will intensify in the time to come, with the UFO believers running after all the contact swindlers without hesitation, courting them and going astray. Increasingly, many will claim through lies and deceit that they are in personal or telepathic contact with Simyase, with Ptah, with me, or with others of our races, as well as with higher spirit forms of our planes, in personal or telepathic, as well as channeling contact. But everything will only be lies, deceit, and dizziness, because no human being on the earth apart from you will be able to come into any kind of contact with us, just as we will only be able to come into contact with you, for which you know the reasons. Nevertheless, in the next few years, a contactee psychosis will spread across the earth, as well as a true extraterrestrial delusion, and a kidnapping delusion by extraterrestrials will appear in relation to belief in all imaginable and unimaginable extraterrestrials. Thereby, through the extraterrestrial fairy tale, will create a financial violent business that will far exceed the previous one and will be coupled with esotericism and parapsychology. This will benefit the secret plans of the countries which are doing their mischief with the flying discs, which is why they are very diligent in their machinations, which they then ascribe to aliens through their information channels, for example, certain machinations with crop circles, animal massacres and alleged abductions and harm, etc. by alleged aliens, in which all sorts of pretenses are made by hypnosis and even foreign bodies are implanted in the abducted, etc. Thus, all possible and impossible aliens are invented, so that the secret plans and machinations can be carried out unchallenged, whereby, however, also the fear of aliens is stirred up and driven up. So it is a fact that since 1945, when the plans of the air disc technology fell into the hands of the Americans, Russians and English, with few exceptions, the whole earthly mankind is lied to and deceived, and to it every means is right, also alleged activities of extraterrestrials. And all those fools, irresponsible, criminals, deceivers, liars and swindlers, etc., in matters of alleged contacts with extraterrestrials, spirits, dead and higher beings are co-responsible for the fact that the secret machinations can be promoted in relation to the flying discs, because with their lies and deceits they promote everything still.
Contact Report 238.
A fact which can in no way be dismissed with any humorous phrases, because there is really nothing ridiculous about it, as is the case, for example, with those misguided people who still believe in the boundless nonsense of the circles and figures in the cornfields of Stonehenge in England and around the world, who even worship them and glorify them as works of extraterrestrial or secret occult earthly forces, etc. Although all in all everything is only the work of earthly human charlatans, business people and jokers as well as of evil swindlers, as you could see yourself when you saw with your own eyes the machinations for the emergence of such circles and figures in cornfields and meadows in Stonehenge and in other places of the earth with Quetzal's help. In this respect, another spectacular series of such cornfield circles and cornfield figures is now in the offing, this time in northern Germany, which will make a name for themselves all over the world and attract misguided believers, fanatics, would-be experts, profiteers, ghost seers, etc. Wildest suppositions and assertions of allegedly observed phenomena and UFOs, etc., will quickly make the rounds and attract or speculate all those misguided people who believe all the nonsense and mischief in this regard, although these cornfield circles and cornfield figures appearing in northern Germany will also be nothing but a prank, which will be made in the same way as the circles and figures in Stonehenge and in other places around the globe. In the case of this imminent prank, which is already planned, the authors of the cornfield circles and cornfield figures will soon speak up and openly announce their prank with the hint that they could do just as well as the people of Stonehenge and in the rest of the world. A fact that also comes true, and a work of joke that will not stand back behind the deceptions of Stonehenge and the rest of the world, only that it is not a deception to be committed, as in Stonehenge and all other places on earth, but just a joke, which after the publication of the circles and figures will soon be made recognizable as a student eulogy, but after many misguided believers, fanatics, profiteers, and wannabe scientists and wannabe connoisseurs of the subject will have exposed themselves to ridicule, which is likely to be true around the middle or end of July. The same thing will happen in England as in northern Germany. The fraud and deception with the crop circles will be revealed.
You said earlier that in England, too, the vertigo of cornfield circles is finally being uncovered. Does that also apply to all other similar machinations around the world? And is the uncovering of the worldwide giant swindle and this fraud final?
My speech was only of the fact that in England the same will happen concerning the cornfield circles as in Germany. So my words mean that some persons in England will be as active as in northern Germany with regard to the circles in the cornfields, whereby these persons will also openly and officially confess their actions in public if some pseudo-scientists have made a fool of themselves who are consulted for the examination of the pictograms.
Then it is not a question of actually exposing the whole swindle, neither in England nor in the rest of the world, where the same swindles and frauds are cheerfully continuing. Nor does anything seem to be said about those who belong to that ancient Celtic cult, and who have been making such cornfield circles and other cornfield figures, which are also called pictograms, into the cornfields for magical and evocative cult rituals since time immemorial. From Quetzal I know that not only the believers of these old cults, but also followers and members of the witch faith fabricate these mysterious signs and circles into the cornfields by trampling down the corn in various ways or rolling it down with any kind of equipment, without bending the stalks of the corn or otherwise injuring it. The reason why cornfields of all things are used for this purpose is the fertility of the ear, and the fact that not only does life sprout from it, but also the bread is made from it, which in the cultic realm symbolizes the body and soul of human beings and the divine. These Celtic cults led back to the time of the 8th century BC to the Indo-Germanic people of the Celts, who were actually settled in Western Europe, some of whom, however, were very fond of wandering and as a result set off on never returning journeys throughout the world. Incredible as it may sound, they actually almost reached the remoteness of the last corners of the earth, where they mixed with various natives and continued their Celtic cults, although often in such a modified form that the origin was hardly recognizable. Yes, it was similar or even the same with the Vikings, from whom also the original inhabitants of Switzerland descended. Yes, with regard to the Celts, it was so that they spread out especially in England and Scotland, and of course indulged in their cults there, as the emigrants in the wide world outside also did. So it was only natural that they erected and created their signs and pictograms, etc. already at that time, or simply made them. So also the signs and circles in the cornfields, as the Celtic cultists still do today in England, and also in many other places in the wide world. Only these cult pictograms, as they are called, these cornfield circles and cornfield figures of all kinds, these are not made with fraudulent and swindling intentions like those which are made by swindlers, cheats and charlatans, in order to profit from it or to let a certain stupid mass of humanity walk the fool.
Actually, you have said and explained everything necessary with it. You only did not mention that with Quetzal's help you could observe not only the machinations of the swindlers and charlatans in England and elsewhere on Earth several times, but also the efforts of those who, for cultic reasons, rolled the many signs and circles into the cornfields.
I did not find it necessary to mention this, because these ritualists do not make the cornfield circles in order to deceive people and to make a profit or to make fun of the stupid believers, but in order to fulfill their rites according to their faith, and thus to wish for all good and love for all mankind.
Contact Report 250.
Whereby the so-called supernatural, of course, does not exist in any way, because everything in everything is always naturally explainable, and also naturally given. The supernatural exists only in the ignorance and the incomprehension of man, because he has no knowledge about all those things which he cannot understand and cannot explain himself. Truthfully, everything so-called supernatural is absolutely natural, and thus also classified according to the corresponding laws of spirit or matter, which are able to give an explanation for everything and everyone, whereby something supernatural becomes a fact of non-existence. Everything that can be grasped and perceived, everything that can be seen and heard, and everything that can be felt, recognized, experienced, etc., is always real and natural in every case, regardless of whether it takes place on a spiritual or material level or on a medium level between spirit and matter, which is so often called the level of the supernatural or the supernatural by parapsychologists and esoterics who do not understand it.
A true word.
Contact Report 269.
Then there's another question, which refers to the pictograms themselves. For years now, more and more unknown flying objects have been appearing, which appear in the sky in masses and form figures that can be described as sky pictograms or the like. Do these appearances have any connection with the real crop circle pictograms? I mean, whether they are connected?
That is not really the case, at least in several cases where we did some research. There were celestial pictograms, but they have nothing to do with the crop circle pictograms and nothing to do with alleged extraterrestrials.
And both of these manifestations really extend across the whole world.
That is right. So not everything that appears to be true is always real, because crop circle pictogram forgers have been at work all over the world for a long time. That is, for years, for whatever ridiculous reasons. 13th May, 1996, 1459 Chapuas. Note, probably a private conversation during Contact 256 Arrow.
On your last visit, you also told me that with regard to the so-called crop circles, everything is no longer of a purely earthly human nature, but that for some time now there have also been earth foreigner influences at play. Then things have actually changed with regard to crop circle forgeries and certain things, just in the sense that now also extraterrestrial influences are involved.
For quite some time, this is actually swinging wave-based the case. However, this does not mean that the pictograms, etc., are not genuine and cannot be traced back to the Earth foreigners. As always, counterfeits are being made by freeloaders who are not exposed to the swinging waves.
And what is the connection between the pictograms which are created by the influence of extraterrestrial vibrations of forces? I think it's rather stupid that humans on Earth who are not yet highly developed make themselves felt in this way.
E11. So the connection does not exist by coming events within the SOL system, and also not by the announcement of the appearance of Earth foreigners whose ancestors came to Earth earlier. And with regard to the stupidity that you address, you are not wrong. But the stupidity does not lie with Earth foreigners, but with Earth humans themselves, who in this actually quite primitive form want to draw attention to alleged extraterrestrial events, because allegedly a direct and open appearance of extraterrestrials could cause chaos. Through the pictograms, in which even terrestrial humans have a hand in the matter, terrestrial humanity is supposed to be slowly confronted with things of the future, even if this is indeed a very primitive procedure, tailored to terrestrial humans. So the pictograms must not overlook the fact that there are forgeries that are the work of earthly artists, charlatans, and swindlers alone.
I was able to observe such activities with Quetzal's help. But I did not know that pictograms were and are also created in which extraterrestrial vibrations of forces are involved.
There was no need for us to mention this earlier, and moreover there was and is a lot of dizziness, lies, charlatanry, and deception interwoven in this relationship from the very beginning. This must always be taken into account. We did not give you any false information, but we only concealed certain facts from you because they would have interfered with your task and would have led many honest seekers into confusion. But now the time has come to give a more precise explanation, because the event from which a connection between terrestrial men and aliens arises has not yet come closer.
According to your concept, not in the near future.
Right.
How long have you known that extraterrestrial influences are also involved in crop circles? When I watched the deception together with Quetzal, you had not yet mentioned anything about it.
That corresponds to the facts. Because we knew about the machinations of swindlers and charlatans regarding the pictograms, we did not care any more about them, although they appeared more and more frequently. It was not until 1985, when we observed certain things through one of our surveillance flying apparatuses, that we turned our attention to the matter again, whereby we then detected activities that were also attributed to Earth foreign force vibrations, through which, among other things, Earth humans were influenced who were active in matters of the performing arts. There are still many questions open regarding the pictograms, and there is still charlatanry and deceit, as always, from people who do not represent and produce the pictures as a result of art, but as a result of deceit. The only thing that is certain for us so far is that there are certain extraterrestrial energy influences that influence humans on Earth, among others, so that they are active in making pictograms. This does not mean, however, that everything concerning the so-called crop circles is allegedly of honest origin, that it is traced back to influences of Earth foreign beings.
So swindlers, charlatans, and fraudsters continue to work with us, through whom many crop circle believers are led around on a fool's rope, in addition to the fact that the energy-influenced ones naturally continue to do their art.
It should also be explained that the pictogram makers influenced by alien energies are ignorant of the influences, according to which they consider their actions to be their voluntary work.
But I still find it stupid that highly developed extraterrestrials are supposed to make messages in such a primitive way, or have them made by Earth humans influenced by them, as crop circle believers claim.
You are not wrong about this, although it must be said that the Earth humans responsible for this are still very far below the development that is peculiar to us Pleiaren. But it must also be said that these Earth humans think in this form because they cannot deal openly with reality through their stupidity as Earth humans, and because they fear a personal panic or a personal chaos. For this reason, they resort to their primitive faith, namely in the form of faith in extraterrestrials and their alleged signs, which are also supposed to be encoded, so that everything first has to be unraveled and only becomes known in certain circles for the time being. The whole thing thus prevents a mass publication of the real truth in the big public, which is why euphoria, fear, panic, or chaos could break out into the crop circle believers. Out of such fears, the crop circle pictures are not secretly produced. But the thought plays along that more interest is aroused by the secretiveness, etc., whereby it does not play a role. However, that terrestrial humans influenced by extraterrestrial energies are active in relation to the pictogram production, and that also swindlers, charlatans, and fraudsters do the same in this regard.
Contact Report 322.
Now then, you told me, when I do not know any more, that you are working intensively on the clarification of the crop circle phenomena, because you have come across things that in this respect go far back in time. You said that the so-called crop circles had appeared in all past centuries. These pictograms and diagrams, etc., as they are also called, are said to have been conjured up in rape fields, cornfields, and meadows, even in medieval and ancient times. According to your explanations, however, you Pleyar never bothered about this. On the one hand, because there was no interest on your part in it, and on the other hand, because you were of the opinion that the figures in the fields were pure Earth-man-made work. That was even still seen by you in the 80s in such a way, for which there was also sufficient reason. So Quetzal took me with him to England once, where I was able to observe how different people, individually or in groups, made crop circles or pictograms. According to your explanations, which you made a few years ago, other forces than those of Earth people are supposed to be involved in the creation of the works, and it is exactly these forces that you wanted to get to the bottom of. Since then, a few years have passed, but you did not give me any more explanations. You just remained silent. Have you not gained any new knowledge, or are such knowledge to remain a secret for us Earthlings?
There is a whole range of new knowledge, but for the time being, these still fall within the scope of our directives, which do not yet allow us to release the relevant knowledge to Earthlings. Besides, we have not yet clarified everything. But this much I can say, that besides the very many banal crop circle fakes, which since the 20th century even appear worldwide and of course are also constructed by Earthmen, also since ancient times energy crop circles, that is to say energy pictograms, as we call them, are given, which are based on sources which we are not allowed to name yet according to our directives, because Earthmen have to find the solution of the riddle by progressive research and knowledge by themselves. If we were to openly reveal the knowledge we have gained, then we would violate our directives and, in addition, would negatively influence the course of evolution of earthly humanity, which, however, must never be in our mind and actions. So the investigations and researches for the achievement of results and for all knowledge must be carried out and advanced by Earth humans themselves.
Nice mess. I thought that you would reveal the secret now. Could you at least tell me what kind of energy sources these crop circles or diagrams and pictograms, etc. are? How are these energy sources created and where do they come from? Are there purely earthly forces behind them, such as earthly magnetic energies? Are there any extraterrestrial intelligences involved, or do extraterrestrial energies simply play a role in this?
You are asking very profound questions, dear friend, which actually embarrass me, because I am not even allowed to give an evasive answer, but only an absolutely negative one, in order not to violate our directives.
Contact Report 328.
But now I would like to talk to you about what we talked about the other day regarding the so-called crop circles. You said that in the next few weeks you could give me permission to talk about what you explained to me. Is that now, or is now the time?
The time has come to be able to talk openly about everything because we have been able to finish our research and clarifications. In addition, since our conversation on this matter, knowledge has come to light among the Earthlings that allows me to speak openly about it now. As I have already explained in previous conversations, the so-called energy crop circles and energy pictograms are actually connected with extraterrestrial influences. But we first had to find out why you should not talk about them, because false explanations should not be allowed to arise, so that no harm could arise through which the wrong paths could have been taken. But these outside influences are not as much as the crop circle believers assume, who believe that extraterrestrials are directly the originators of these creations. In fact, it is indeed Earthmen who, in an artistic way and laborious work, kick and roll the crop circles and pictograms with suitable aids of quite primitive form into the grain, etc., starting from prefabricated drafts and drawings, which in the beginning were handmade, but for some time now have been very artistically produced on computers and manually transferred to the crop fields, etc. So the whole thing is actually, as in old times, and as you have found out quite early on with Quetzal, a pure man-made machine, although it must not be overlooked, as I have explained to you several times already, that extraterrestrial forces are involved. This is not, however, a form of extraterrestrials or extraterrestrial life forms of human or any other material kind, but solely and exclusively cosmic energies, which are taken up by the people sensitive to them and which creatively support their fantasies and ideas. If one starts from these vibrational forces and specifies them, then one can speak of universal evolutionary energies or evolutionary energies, as we do. These are the finest energy vibrations, which are present universally and are absorbed by every human life form, thus stimulating their fantasy and ideas to develop. Depending on the person and his disposition, these oscillation impulses give rise to the most diverse forms of application and use. In case of making crop circles, the factor of drawing and designing as well as creative arts will appear, where these good values will simply be used by the vibration. That is to say, impulse, receivers in the way, how it just comes out of the crop circles. This kind of art production is an individual form of each artist, and most of them want to remain anonymous and are content to indulge in their art and enjoy it as well as the confusion and the erroneous faith of certain people who, as a result of their non-realistic thinking, indulge in things that are alien to any reality. It is still to be explained that during the first time when we noticed that extraterrestrial influences were playing a part in the energy pictograms or energy crop circles, that these could be suggestive and impulsive influences of any mischievous extraterrestrial human life forms, which is why we only started research in this direction, which took a long time. Finally, we were able to exclude this possibility. So we turned to further research several months ago and finally found the solution to the mystery, which we only managed to do last week. What I have not explained yet is the crop circle video, where white-colored objects appear, fly over a crop field, and in the next moment wide pictograms appear in the grain. 126. This video, like others of the same or similar kind, are also fakes made on computers.
Contact Report 329.
On the 13th of May, 1996, and the 24th of August, 1998, you stated in regard to the crop circles and crop circle pictograms, respectively, that extraterrestrial forces were involved. In the course of your clarifications, however, according to your statements of the 20th of July, that is to say 14 days ago, it has now turned out that these are not extraterrestrials in the sense of life forms or humans, but extraterrestrial energies, namely evolutionary energies. I have not received any explanation from you. I mean in regard to why you assume that extraterrestrial life forms would participate in the creation of the crop circles, and therefore would have their fingers in the pie as well as the Earth humans. Could you give me an explanation of this afterwards?
As you know, we, like you, have always known that humans on Earth are behind the making of crop circles. Through Quetzal, you were also given the opportunity to observe these earthly human machinations. Now it turned out, however, that since the 80s we observed again and again strange apparently extraterrestrial flying objects, as we assumed, with and in the vicinity of the crop circle pictograms, which has been preserved until today, whereby we have now gained the knowledge that these are not actual extraterrestrial flying objects, but flying objects belonging to Earth. Of course, we were interested in what was going on there, but due to our extensive tasks, we could not personally seek detailed observations and clarifications. So we exposed a very small stationary observation probe at high altitude, which was equipped with all the necessary exploration facilities. But this did not happen until spring of this year, that is to say, a few months ago, although up to then we were still of the opinion that the movements recorded by our registration equipment were extraterrestrial flying objects and would have a direct or indirect connection with the crop circles. Soon it turned out, however, that this was not the case, but that these alien flying objects only had a fraudulent function. A fact that, quite obviously, was only due to the interest of crop circle believers, who, as we now know, do not come from a different space-time structure, and thus also not from one that is upstream of the Earth in the future. And as no influence of these objects could be detected, another small probe was exposed, which records and analyses fine matter vibrations and thus fine matter energies. In this episode, our scientists used your formulas from the memory banks of Henoch and Nocedemion, which you left to us, and through which they were able to make the fine matter energy probe, through which distinct and therefore very powerful evolutive energies could be registered, which are oriented towards the performing arts, that is to say, towards a knowledgeable and active mastery of the representation of great artistic works. In this form, the mentioned evolutive energies work in the direction of monumental art. Consequently, only very large art objects, like the crop circle pictograms, which have a decisive size, as determined by the evolutive energies of the mentioned form, as we could find out according to the Henoch formulas and Nocedemion formulas. Now, humans who are sensitive to these energies are busy according to the determination of the evolutive energies of the mentioned kind, and work in drawing and on computers in the creation and design of artistic structures and drawings as well as exact masses, which are then transferred into the cornfields and meadows, etc., by treading, stamping, and rolling or with other aids. In this way, and by the mentioned origin, thus the crop circle pictograms are created. These evolutionary energies, that still has to be explained, refer, as you know very well, to every development of man and every other form of life in the whole universe, and since the very beginning of the first life form that came into existence, they have had a specific effect on every genus and type of all forms of life. This explains that all evolution of every form is affected by the evolutionary energies of universal. That is to say, this explains that all evolution of every form is impulsively controlled by the evolutionary energies of universal or creative origin through a predetermined striving for something higher, whereby, however, the conscious life form, human being, is free in its will to follow and behave according to this and thus to follow the impulses of its own free will or not. As you define this very precisely in a spiritual teaching work on us, and which I would like to repeat here as an explanation, as you will write down my statements as a contact conversation and make them accessible to the Earth humans. This will certainly cause uproar in some Earth humans, as there is a widespread opinion that extraterrestrial beings are actually behind the making of the crop circles. But according to our extensive investigations, this is actually not the case, as everything can be traced back to Earth human machinations, whereby, however, as explained, cosmic or universal, creative evolutionary energies are the triggering factor and the true origin.
Contact Report 620.
I can now once again talk about the crop circles, of which one only rarely hears anything nowadays, because they have gone out of fashion, so to speak, and because, on the other hand, it was already certain about 25 years ago that the actual first authors of the pictograms admitted that they fabricated the crop circles in England for fun, which then found imitators in England and even in Europe and the whole world. I had forgotten the names of the two decisive authors of the crop circles, although you had already told me the names of the authors of the crop circles at the beginning of the appearance of the first crop circles, which I was supposed to keep silent about, for whatever reason. The reason did not interest me and does not interest me now. Well, in the meantime, I had forgotten the names of the two men, but in the last few days I searched for them on the internet, and also found them, and also a description of the whole story.
The names of the two men were Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley.
I want to clarify something. Back in the 1980s and 1990s, we talked about crop circles on various occasions, and you always said that they were made by Earthlings, and in a rather primitive way, as I was once able to see for myself with your help. In the making of the crop circles, however, it did not remain with the two older men who trampled these pictograms into the grain, as I have already mentioned, but there were many imitators around the world who also made crop circles, in the same way as Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley. In the end, the whole thing became a real crop circle hysteria, which has died down again today. But there are still many fantasists who believe that the pictograms were created by extraterrestrials or by magical powers, etc., and would still be created today if Earthlings stepped on them again in some crop fields. What interests me now is what you have said several times, that on the one hand energy pictographs can appear in cornfields as well as in meadows and forests, but that they are not produced by Earthlings, but can appear through ruins hidden in the earth, watercourses and magnetic factors. But you were not allowed to give any information about this, because everything belongs to the area of earthly scientific research, which you were not allowed to disclose according to your directives, because this had to be reserved for earthly researchers and must also continue to be reserved. In the meantime, however, earthly technology is so advanced in every respect that scientists with the appropriate apparatus and equipment have been able to detect and record such natural phenomena for many years, whereby ruins and watercourses, etc., hidden in the earth can also be detected and explored. This is correct, or?
That is correct, because according to our directives, we are not allowed to state any secrets of that kind as findings and facts.
What I would like to know now, however, relates to your statements that extraterrestrial forces have also been involved in the crop circle productions, and can also continue to be involved. Basically, all crop circles, and indeed all crop circles without exception, were and are made by Earthlings, whereby they are called pictograms by so-called crop circle researchers and crop circle believers. Nevertheless, you have said that extraterrestrial forces are also involved and play a decisive role. I know what it is about and how it is to be understood, and that it is not about extraterrestrials who have their fingers in the pie, because these extraterrestrial forces are based on natural universal vibrations, which let an artistic vein vibrate in the human being, so to speak, through which they create artistic structures. Can you explain something about that, please?
Universe-wide, a creative natural movement vibrates, which spreads artistic impulses in many forms. For example, predominantly in relation to geometric and symmetrical forms, which are important in the production of crop circles, because the Earth humans who produce these pictograms absorb these vibrations and transform them into works of art according to their meaning, as in pictograms, which they then press into crop fields by treading down the stalks of grain. Apart from geometrical and symmetrical forms, The extraterrestrial or cosmic energetic impulses of art also impart many other forms of art, such as painting, carving, sculpture, drawing and music, etc. I have explained various things to you in earlier private conversations, such as that these creative natural artistic impulses are of a universal energetic vibrational nature and are also contained in the cosmic electromagnetic life, energy, and stimulate the consciousness of human beings through their subconsciousness in order to become artistically active and to represent and create all kinds of art forms, be it drawing, sculpting, or in any other artistic way. Human beings in particular, as well as other life forms, who are sensitive enough to pick up these vibrations contained in the cosmic electromagnetic life energy, can also translate them into many different forms. This is especially true of human beings who have artistic abilities and interests, so that they are especially predisposed or talented to absorb these vibrations. This creative natural art-mediating vibration also affects all other living beings, such as animals, birds, insects, reptiles, aquatic creatures, and amphibians, for which the universal art vibrations are important for nest building or for mate-making and the play instinct, etc. The same also happens with regard to minerals, which are solids and have a defined chemical composition and also a defined physical crystalline structure. Many of them form themselves into geometrical and symmetrical figures, which consistently arise as universal art from the corresponding creative natural artistic vibrations. So this art arises not only in Earth humans, but also throughout the universe in all of nature, in which geometric and symmetrical forms of all kinds are formed through the extraterrestrial or creative natural art vibrations, such as, for example, galaxies, circles, crosses, rings, cubes, and many other geometrical and symmetrical forms, whereby for Earth humans, the best known in this respect are the crystal forms which arise in minerals of all kinds, but also in snowflakes, in infinite variations, and in ice formations, etc. From this point of view is to be understood what my daughter Simya say, as well as Quetzal and I, have said in regard to extraterrestrial forces which are involved in the production of crop circle formations. So it is not earthly planetary vibrations, but extraterrestrial ones, which are of universal form. The Earth humans who made or continue to make such crop circle pictograms thus find their ideas for them in the extraterrestrial or creative natural universal artistic vibrations through which all life forms and all minerals and plants derive benefit. Plants of all kinds use this extraterrestrial art vibration to form their shapes, just as Earth humans use it to be artistically active in whatever way, while other life forms use this creative natural art vibration in various other ways according to their species and kind. And because this art vibration does not emanate from Earth, but moves creatively naturally universe-wide, we call it extraterrestrial and universal.
Contact Report 669.
You have told me in confidence some things about the so-called crop circles, and also pointed out that about 88% are artistic works of Earthlings. But we have not spoken openly about this yet. Although you said that the earthly works or earthly crop circles are made by extraterrestrial forces, you also said that only from the end of the year 2016 this fact may be officially mentioned, so I will talk about it now. But it would be interesting to be allowed to say something about the remaining 12%, which have other origins than earthly work, whereby I only mention those percentages, which can be traced back to terrestrial planetary sources, which are also connected to light phenomena, which appear in grain fields, etc.
Of course, we can speak openly about this if we do not also want to mention the other factors that we are not allowed to address.
That is the point of my question, because what you said before was never complete. because certain things had to be kept silent about, which is no longer necessary, as I understood your words at the time. And the rest, which still must not be addressed, we do not need to discuss that.
Of course, that is correct. A certain percentage of crop circle appearances is, as you know, not the product of Earth humans being, although I cannot give the exact percentage for directive reasons. What I openly address in relation to crop circles, as well as other symbolic formations in other natural straw plants, that is to say, in various grain fields, as well as in grass, bamboo, rape, and reed, that is to say, sweetgrass, does not refer to works of Earth humans. These are, in fact, based all over the Earth on purely Earth magnetic phenomena, which, however, are related to early Earth humans' energy force practices, the effective nature of which must be concealed. This is because if today the old practices in this respect, which have fallen into oblivion, were to become known again then, due to the unreasonableness and greed for war of Earth humans, their use for the production of a very dangerous military weapon would be unavoidable. This would have extremely far-reaching and serious consequences, which I could not be responsible for if I acted against our directives. It would also not be in our Pleiaren sense as a whole. On the other hand, as far as the extraterrestrial influences during the creation of the crop circles are concerned, I can only explain again the same thing in other words as I have already explained to you earlier, namely, that the extraterrestrial forces, which are created during the creation of crop circles by Earth humans, correspond to normal, natural, universal impulse vibrations. 76. These influence everything and anything, including all genera and species of human beings, including Earth humans beings, as well as all matter and all fauna and flora. These energetic impulse oscillations correspond to cosmic natural forces, which create all works of art of nature and also create perfect symmetrical forms of various kinds, which arise everywhere and also in the open nature in everything that exists. All imaginable circle forms, squares, octahedrons, hexahedrons, cubes, crosses, etc., are created, which appear in many materials, such as plants, crystals, ores, and especially snowflakes. When it snows, enormous masses of snow crystals fall from the sky as frozen works of art. Billions of them, whereby no two snow crystals are the same, because each one is a unique piece of nature or the extraterrestrial, cosmic, universal, artistic vibration. All living beings are also affected by the whole, and consequently also the human beings, in which the human being creates and brings to bear the whole of the artistic through his consciousness, and thus also through his thoughts and imagination, as well as through his actions and artistic creations. With regard to crop circles, this is especially true for certain Earth humans with regard to their artistic impulse vibration receptiveness, if they are sensitive to it. This leads to the special creation of the so-called crop circles, because the cosmic universal artistic impulses give them this ability. Therefore, it has to be said that these crop circles are made by Earth humans, but they are not purely Earth human beings, but effectively an extraterrestrial phenomenon or a cosmic universal size. Other things concerning light phenomena and unknown flying objects around the worldwide crop circles are the result of Earth humans and private pranks on the one hand, but also of military and espionage research achievements on the other hand. This is especially true in England, which is considered the mother of crop circles in crop circle expert circles, and where the main centers of crop circles are surrounded.
There is, however, one mystery that has not yet been solved, and that is how the angled, altered, and sometimes burst or exploded growth nodes of cereal stalks come about. Can you explain something about this?
This also has a very simple cause, which is based on the electromagnetic radiation, which creates a tension, and thus the knot housing is torn open or bursts open, as you say. Exploding cannot be said about this, because the electromagnetic effect does not produce heat, but only tension, which causes the growth nodes to rupture.
And the fact that the so-called crop circle researchers have suspected for a long time that strong heating causes the growth nodes to burst open is of course pure nonsense, because your father Svath has explained on the one hand that there is no heat effect, but only a very strong electromagnetism, and on the other hand he has also shown me experimentally that growth nodes in cereals do indeed burst open due to electromagnetic influence. Svath explained that when heated, the inside of the plant would expand, causing the cells to burst, but that this was not effectively the case, because electromagnetism in this form is a cold process and therefore also acts cold, which is also the reason why the growth nodes and stalks would retain their special elasticity and altered shape, which could not be the case if the whole thing was caused by heat radiation.